Hey, what's up, everybody? It is the Rust Belt Report here on Buffalo FAMbase. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you that are just getting tuned in right now, I am, of course, Ryan Coghill, your host, who does not do the most or tries not to do the most on a nightly basis. Apologies for missing last week. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I had COVID. That's not the reason why I missed. The reason why I missed last week is because I was at the Sabres game. And the reason I have a Sabres jersey on right now is because the Sabres are playing right now. So we're not going to rush through this, but we are going to try and get through this as fast as possible. So enjoy like our fourth or third last game of the season here for a bit. But if you do see me muting or taking a minute just to cough, just know I am slowly but surely recovering from my own bout with COVID. I have a man here with me who I've done a ton of shows with, who continually is texting me with ideas, and I'm continually texting him with ideas. And he's the whole reason I kind of got back into sports podcasting again. And so I want to thank my man Justus, and I want to welcome him back to the show. What's up, man?
What's going on, Ryan? You know, I would watch the Sabres. It's just that, like, every time they're on, I'm never thinking about it. So it's like, and then I see like, oh, the final score, and it's like, oh, damn, I missed another game. So yeah, I'll actually tune in tonight too after we finish. But it's always a pleasure being on your show, bro. I appreciate you asking me to come on because, of course, I'm always down to talk football with my guy. So
I know, and that's why I love having you. And hockey. Speaking of that, though, it's so one of my friends is here, my good friend Ducky, and he's giving away from the couch, and he goes, he calls me earlier today, and he goes, "Hey, can I come over and watch the game?" And I go, "Yeah, of course." And then he goes, "Hey, you know you have like a show," and I go, "Yeah, I remember I have a show. I just hate the fact that I was like, yeah, I'll do the show at 7 p.m. every Thursday because 7 is when games typically kick off." So I usually have like the game on at the same time as we're doing this. So if I'm looking up every now and then, it's because I'm looking at the game. But enough about hockey for right now. We're going to get into the Bills because we actually have stuff to talk about. We don't have to manufacture stories, or not that we're manufacturing stories, but we don't have to leap at these offseason stories and talk about more league things. We can finally get back to talking about the Buffalo Bills because the Bills offseason program has begun. And so Bills have reported to Orchard Park. However, I just want to note before we start getting angry comments, because we're going to talk about some players that are a hot topic right now this offseason. It is voluntary program right now. So not everybody has to be in Orchard Park, but we did see a number of players that reported. We saw Josh Allen report. We saw Ed Oliver report. Who are some other guys that we saw report?
Von Miller. I think Saffold was there.
Yep.
You know, some of the new guys. Yeah, so look pretty good. Tyrell Dodson, my guy, T-Dot.
Tyrell Dodson, who you just had on, who you just did a show with the other night with Robin. So congrats, man, on doing that. That was your first Bills player.
Yes.
So
yes. And then I immediately did my second one the next day. We shout out to Mookie, Coach Mookie. He asked me as like a kind of producer on you know, his whole thing. He has a kind of a partnership with Believe. So
yes, I did see that.
Yeah, so he's doing the Buffalo section, so Believe in Bills basically. And we had Mr. Joby Brannion, who is Von Miller's agent, and then we had Donald Jones, of course, former Buffalo Bills wide receiver. So that was really dope. So shout out to Coach Mookie, shout out to Mr. Brannion, and of course Donald Jones as well. But yeah, man, very exciting week.
Nice. And so I don't. This wasn't added into like the topics because it just happened today. But you brought up Roger Saffold. The Bills signed one of Roger Saffold's Tennessee teammates today in Queensbury, and I believe that's his last name, and I'm pronouncing it correctly. But as an offensive like tackle depth. So I just wanted to make sure that signing did not get swept under the rug with the offseason program and some of the other things that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But yeah, there's a ton of players that are in Buffalo. Again, these are voluntary. it feels like just yesterday the offseason ended, and I'm sure it feels the exact same for a lot of these players. So I'm not, going to get hot and bothered by the fact that some guys, well, the majority of the team didn't show up for involuntary work voluntary workouts. So I'm not going to, get upset with that. But off-season program begins. I want to get a little bit more into the weeds. We've talked about this a couple of times. I know it's been talked about on tons of other shows just because there's so many Bills Mafia content creators. But Justus, with the voluntary workouts beginning, that means that we're at the start of the NFL season here. We know that the draft is coming up next week. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show, but we are going to have live draft coverage for nights 1 and 2. We're gonna have a ton of different people on. We worked on the idea. You've really been the one executing it, so you might be able to talk about who's going to be involved with that a little bit here at the end of the show. So just teeing you up for that. But is there a player or a number of players that when you're looking at the fact that the season is beginning that you really want to have show up and show out? Either that they're in the off-season program right now with the voluntary workouts, or you're just hoping like through OTAs and camp that you have a couple of guys that are on your mind that you're like, hey, I really want to see what they can do for the team. Either they've been here a while or, they're really new and you think that they're going to, slot in somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you because I've been talking for a minute. So give us some names, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, man. First of all, I feel like the easy answer is Von Miller, right? And of course, I want to see what he brings to the team, but that's not who I'm like most excited for, right? But who I'm kind of most excited for is kind of like I don't know if he's like I don't know if it was under the radar, but it's not one of the guys that people talk about a ton, i.e. like a OJ Howard, a Von Miller, and those type of signings. But I'm really excited to see what Tim Settle brings to the team. I don't know, man. His energy is infectious. It's great. And I watched his film. Guy's a monster. Like, I mean, like he's a starter in the NFL on probably like 70% of teams. And the only reason he wasn't a starter on Washington is because their line was stacked. Like, so, bringing him on, and I'm really excited to see what he brings. And I feel like he will, really be able to close a lot of gaps. We were talking about this earlier, things like, talking about it with T-Dot and everything. I expect a breakout season from our linebackers, a lot of them, because, you don't have 350-pound men, running their 4.7 speed, full speed ahead at you, when you have a guy in front of you that can, command more attention, that can, be big and physical in the gaps and kind of shut things down more than, other people may have in the past. And so I think a guy like Tim Settle comes to mind. Daquan Jones, not Daquan Cook. I keep getting them mixed up. Daquan Jones comes to mind. OJ Howard comes to mind. I'm like, I see the big names are cool. But for me, it's kind of like those guys that play the Harrison Phillips type role, right? That plays the Tommy Sweeney type role. Because how different does our season look if Tommy Sweeney played at like peak performance? It looks pretty different to me. There was a couple plays that Tommy Sweeney kind of just gave up, and I think having a guy like OJ Howard be able to come in and make plays happen, feel like really works well. And of course, this guy here, Tim Settle, look at his film, bro. Like, look at this. Look at him. He's taking on, people by himself, taking on double teams and still, creating pressure, still getting to the running back, allowing the linebackers to come up and do their job. Look at him. Look at that, bro. Like, what? Bro?
No, I mean, the number one thing that everybody's been saying, and I think, when you and I sat down with Matt Perino earlier in the offseason, and we talked about Tim Settle, I brought it up, he brought it up, you brought it up, you just brought it up again. He's literally a product of just simply having been behind one of the best defensive tackle cores in the NFL. And it's a shame that they lost him, but And it's a shame that we lost Harrison Phillips, but to see, just to go back and play this, play some of this stuff again, to see a guy like this just absolutely just obliterating players left and right is really exciting. And it's one of these things where that's why you got to love this front office, because you lose a guy in Harrison Phillips who was doing really good at the end of the year. But this guy gives you something completely different, not just on the defensive side of the ball, but also in that same position from the guy that was there previously, right? Harrison Phillips was like your run stop guy. Settle's your run stop guy. He's going to get after the quarterback. He's going to, if he hands it off, if the quarterback hands it off to a wide receiver or something coming across, like he's going to get to them too. I mean, he's your guy, and I'm really happy that we got him.
Oh, absolutely. I think he completely transforms this. You know what? That's a big thing to say. I'm not going to say that, but I think he adds a very big piece that contributes to forming this defensive line, right? Let's say we don't get Von Miller and we don't get Daquan Jones and we don't get Shaq and Jordan back, right? And I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, that was a really good signing, right? We replaced Harrison Phillips, and all right, now let's see what we can do about getting Gregory Rousseau and AJ Epinesa and Boogie Basham and these guys, more touches or more opportunities on the field, right? But then you bring in a guy like Von Miller. Oh my God, that transforms your defensive line, right? Because now instead of Mario Addison, look, all respect in the world, Mario Addison, right? And you know what? Maybe I'm a little bit unfair to him because he's not like a dominant pass rusher, but that's not what he advertised himself as. You know what I mean? So maybe I do put a little too much pressure on Mario Addison, but that again, I mean, he's not a dominant pass rusher. So I think that was what was missing, right? And you bring in a guy like Von Miller who is or can be a dominant pass rusher, right? And then you also not only have that presence, but you also have his tutelage and his mentorship to another physical freak like Gregory Rousseau, to another guy who has the strength and size and speed of a Carlos Basham Jr., and AJ Epinesa even has a ton of talent. Like, bro, if you remember the preseason last year, we was looking at AJ Epinesa, we was looking at Greg Rousseau, and we were like, yo, our D-line might be one of the best in the league this year. You know what I mean? And at the beginning of the season, they looked pretty good. And then they kind of faltered, about midway and took a little lull or whatever the case may be. But I think having a guy like Von Miller who's been through the grind, who's, played a full season and then, played and won the Super Bowl twice, he's can show these guys how to maintain themselves through the season so that they don't have those run into those walls or anything like that. I understand Gregory Rousseau was a college player and he missed his senior year of college. I know his conditioning probably wasn't the greatest if I'm just using common sense, right? But I think that, a lot of these guys coming in, I'm super excited to see what they could do. So it's a couple of names that I'm really excited for. I'm really excited to see what rookie we get in the first round. Like, that'll be the one.
So we're gonna talk about that kind of a little bit. That's kind of the nice part about the final topic for this evening is we can talk. We're gonna talk about what we're gonna do at Buffalo FAMbase, and then we're gonna talk about we can get into that draft talk a little bit. But I got a name that I've been saying for a bit now, and it's not Christian Wade. Anybody that knows me knows. I'm like, this is not where this is headed. All right,
probably coming back for camp, by the way.
I would think so. But I got a name for somebody that I really want to see kind of show up and show out. Whether I don't know if he's at voluntary workouts, but definitely like OTAs in camp. I want to see this guy show up and show out, and I'm gonna share his highlights here. That's my man Isaiah Hodgins.
He's at camp. He's okay. He came in with Gabriel Davis.
So this is my man Isaiah Hodgins, the number one red zone threat wide receiver in college football, his draft year, which was the same draft year as Gabriel Davis. And listen, I got about when I was pulling these up, I got to like literally here about 40 seconds. Look at that. I got to 40 seconds and it was stopped playing when I just looked this up. These are the highlights I watched 2 years ago, 3 years ago-ish now when we drafted this man. And I stopped it at 40 seconds. I went, that's all I needed to see. That's all you needed to see. The number one red zone wide receiver threat in college football. You can see that he has some speed. He can get separation. Now, obviously, this is college versus the NFL. The separation is going to be a whole heck of a lot closer. But I mean, he's a guy that just is gone and then shows up when he needs to show up, when the ball is being thrown. He was supposed to make the 53-man ahead of Gabriel Davis. If you remember coming out of camp this year, that first year, he got injured. He got pushed down the depth chart last year because of how many wide receivers that we have. Now, the good thing about this year is somebody like Jameson Crowder isn't a threat on the depth chart or the 53-man to Isaiah Hodgins because they play two different roles, whereas last year Emmanuel Sanders was. And then Hodgins did also end up injured last year, but was healthy enough to be called up and was active from the practice squad. So I'm really happy, especially because Buffalo is looking specifically for more red zone threats. I'm really excited for him. My other answer would be OJ Howard, which I know, like you mentioned, is kind of low-hanging fruit, but I'm really excited to see what OJ Howard's going to do, especially because Ken Dorsey likes that two tight end set. And so seeing him operate with Knox, I had every other name besides Dawson Knox running through my head right there. I was like, Dawkins? No, that's not it. With Dawson Knox, seeing that two tight end set and how they're going to operate with that, because that's a new thing for Josh. So you're implementing that, and B, seeing both of those players operating in the same offense and getting this down with their quarterback. I'm going to be really excited to see that happen. So those are my two guys.
I think there's a reason that Isaiah Hodgins is still on the roster, right? You know, guys like him and Tyrell Dodson and Tyler Matakavich and Andre Smith Jr., you know, those guys who maybe you don't see a ton, but they end up on the roster every single year. I think there's a reason for that. If you look at our roster, our team, I mean, we're one of the, if not the best teams in the league. We have one of, if not the best roster in the league, top to bottom, including depth. It's not just top heavy. You know what I mean? We have the number one defense in the NFL, and we very well could have had the number one offense if our offensive line was competent the entire season, right? So there's a reason that these guys are still on the team, you know? I think Isaiah Hodgins is probably one of those guys who maybe one of those Gabriel Davis type guys who kind of come in and just shock everybody. It's like, what the hell happened? You know, I remember John Brown, their rookie season, Gabriel Davis and Isaiah Hodgins rookie season. He's like, these kids is helping me learn the playbook, you know? And so I think they're special, and that's why.
And they're extremely like smart football IQ wise. They're extremely smart. I think they see the field in ways that guys like John Brown, like Emmanuel Sanders. I think Emmanuel Sanders is extremely smart, you know, football IQ wise. And that's obviously one of the reasons why they brought him in. But I think that they just see the field and they see themselves on the field almost when they're out there. And it's like they can see it. It's almost like they're looking from that 30,000 foot view. And they just find a way to make the ball come to themselves. But I do have one other thing I want to throw up, just because you had mentioned it before. I wanted to take a little side gander. But before we do that, Chad York is in the comments. Chad, how's it going tonight? What's going to happen with Zach Moss? And this is a conversation that we've had numerous times in the offseason. Personally, I don't think anything's going to happen with Zach Moss right now, because unless we draft a running back in the first round, you're what are you doing with Zach Moss? There's nothing that's really happening this offseason. You brought in Duke Johnson, who's 27. He's not, competing for RB1 on this team. So I don't think that his job is necessarily, or his position on this team is necessarily at risk right now. But Justus, what do you think about Zach Moss?
Yeah, man. Same to a degree. I think it really depends on what happens in the draft, right? It's kind of hard to say definitively what I think will happen to him without seeing how next week goes. That I mean, I hope not, but let's say they do take a Breece Hall at 25, right? I mean, he's probably gone if we're being realistic, now let's say maybe they take a Isaiah Spiller in the second or third round or something like that. He might be gone. He might, it depends, Now if they take like a fourth rounder, fifth, then he might be able to battle it out. And there's a reason he's also still on the roster as well. They clearly believe in him. He has talent. He has skill. People said he was going to be the next Marshawn Lynch, and although that hasn't necessarily panned out, you still see that. You see why people say he's Marshawn Lynch, right? There's a clip of the Miami game. Oh my God. Remember the dude hit him at like the goal line and he
just kept going.
Off. Yeah, exactly. Like he's a hard runner, running people over. He runs through people. I think Zach Moss, again, he has a ton of talent. I feel like Devin Singletary should probably just be the bell cow. I don't know about bell cow, but he should be the exclusive RB1, and then kind of have Zach Moss come and spell him. But I think Zach Moss is an interesting case, right? I feel like he could or may not be on the roster. We really have to see what happens next week.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree that it depends on what happens next week. Because if you go for running back in the first round, which regardless of who it is, I'm not a big fan on it. Nobody's convinced me enough to sell me on the idea of taking a running back in the first round just because of what you're giving up. I mean, draft position wise, money wise in the future. Because with running backs, you never know A, what you're going to get, and B, what their injury future is. And they take a lot of hits, but the number one thing, and I think the problem with Zach Moss and his relationship to this fan base is he shows, you're right, he was absolutely compared to Marshawn Lynch. He was supposed to be Marshawn Lynch 2.0. He's built the same. He plays the exact same way. The problem is what you just pointed out is when he shows those glimpses and he's not that 100% of the time. And that's a problem. That's a legitimate problem to have in your running back. Imagine if LaDainian Tomlinson was only LT 10% of the time.
Yeah.
Then he's not LT.
Right.
He's just a guy that's like that 10% of the time. So if Zach Moss is only going to be Zach Moss or, Marshawn Lynch 10% of the time versus the 100% of the time that you need him to be that fast guy who can take hits and keep going and put other people down while doing it, we know he can do it. It's just he's not doing it all the time, and that's a legitimate problem. Speaking of a legitimate problem in a good way, you brought up Von Miller, so I wanted to bring up Von Miller's Super Bowl highlights. It's actually a film study. I will get when I come out of this, I will get who put this together so that we make sure that they get the right credit. They're probably talking there, but this is a film study of Von Miller from the Super Bowl. I mean, you can see right there, he's about to part that like the Red Sea. I mean, this is an absolute monster of a player. I mean, they got Joe Burrow some better offensive line protection. This offensive line is holding up pretty well for the most part for what we're looking at right here, right now. But I mean, oh, look at that. He tipped the ball there instead of going after him. But I mean, he couldn't get after him, but he still disrupted the play. That's the type of player Von Miller is. He is not a one trick on one play. He has plan A, B, C, and D before that play gets blown dead. He's just an absolute. I wanted to bring this up because you brought up Von Miller, and while it is low hanging fruit, I mean, this is 3 months ago.
Yeah,
this is 3 months ago, and now he's on the field in a Bills uniform.
This is the guy who's washed, by the way.
Yes, the 2-time Super Bowl champion who is washed. So I wanted to to bring that up. Let me go ahead, stop sharing, and I'll get the name of who that was because I want to give them credit. Jackson Kruger Sports on YouTube. It looks like they're really big into doing this type of stuff. So if you want to go support Jackson Kruger Sports, absolutely go ahead and do it. But yeah, so Isaiah Hodgins for me. Tim Settle was kind of your big one. Do you have anybody else that you wanted to throw out there?
Yeah, man. I'm interested to see how Jameson Crowder works in his offense, right? I looked it up. He runs like a 4.38 or something in a 40, and I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. I never really looked at James Crowder as like a burner, or Jameson Crowder as a burner. But then again, when I think about Jameson Crowder, I think about Zach Wilson throwing him the football. So obviously, there's not a ton of probably good tape out there as far as what he can do at his top potential. He seems like another one of those career year with Josh type of guys. The potential to have a career year and maybe sniff 1,000-yard season, potentially, maybe even surpass it. Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and John Brown, Stephon Diggs, and Cole Beasley almost had 1,000 yards. Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, and Stephon Diggs almost had 1,000 yards. There's no reason Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, and Jameson Crowder can't have 1,000 yards, or close to it. Yeah, exactly. Javon Miller's washed. But and I look at that, Jameson Crowder, he seems to be a speed demon, apparently. I actually, that is my fault. I have to go look at some film of his, but I haven't. I just kind of saw the 40 time and was like, okay, I'm on board, know? So he's another guy.
My biggest mistake with Crowder, and this is probably to his detriment, which is probably to the Bills' positive gain, because I'm sure a lot of people thought of him the same way that I did, is when we signed him, I wasn't that excited about it. I also wasn't thinking about Jameson Crowder. And when we signed him, I went, oh, we signed like a journeyman wide receiver, which is typically not a term that you hear outside of anybody besides a quarterback. But I'm like, it feels like he's just been around forever, and it feels like he's bounced around the league. This is his third team, and he's like 25, 26.
Right.
Like he's an extremely young player who's only been on two teams prior to this. It just feels like he's been around forever. Like I feel like he was in like Madden, I don't know, it's like 2015 or something like that. Like I feel like he's been around in the league for a long time, and he just hasn't been. And so you're right, he's a really fast guy. And if I didn't have something else pulled up for another section here in a little bit, I would go and search up his highlights right now. But yeah, I'm excited to see where he slots in. And I think that's one of the things. I don't know if you necessarily want to call it a battle, but I mean, with Cole Beasley having been cut and let go from the team after requesting a trade, it's like, okay, well, they bring Isaiah McKenzie back on more than a 1-year deal this time, which, go get your money, man. And I'm happy that he stayed with the team, extremely happy that he stayed with the team. But you bring in Crowder and you have Isaiah McKenzie, and it's like, okay, well, we thought McKenzie was going to slide into there. Like, is Jameson Crowder just we're going to bring him in to compete with McKenzie for Beasley's spot? Or do we have a role for both of them? Like, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out as the offseason program continues.
So I kind of feel like Jameson Crowder is probably more of that slot replacement type of guy, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like Isaiah McKenzie is kind of like our Deebo Samuel, right? Our version of Deebo Samuel, right? He's that guy who, if you need him to play out wide, he could do it. If you need him to play in the slot, he could do it. If you need him to do a verse or a stretch, or if you need him to go in the backfield and play, or at least put on the perception that he is a running back, or just play the position. If you don't, if you're playing 5 wide and maybe Josh wants to bring in a blocker or whatever the case may be, we've seen him in the backfield, and he can play that role as well. So I don't think that he needs to be strictly in the slot. I feel like that would be a detriment to his talent. I feel like that would probably put his production down, to be completely honest, right? 2 years ago, I think he had like 9 total touchdowns, and then last year they stopped using him for whatever reason. But I personally feel like whenever Isaiah McKenzie was on the field, our offense performed better, right? Whenever you had Isaiah McKenzie running around in the backfield or pre-snap movements, whatever, and it always created more problems for the defense. It seemed like to me. So I feel like he should just kind of just continue to have that role, and I like him in that role. So I feel like this guy here, Jameson Crowder, probably fits that Cole Beasley replacement a little bit better. Again, and he's faster than Cole Beasley. I don't think he needs to be Cole Beasley by any stretch of the imagination. He needs to be Jameson Crowder and bring everything that he brings to the table. I think he can do it. Look at that. Look at it. Ooh, ooh. Well, I don't like him getting caught by a linebacker, but
no, but I mean, he did have like 5 guys on him. So look at that, though. There was some nice separation there. I mean, he's a fast guy, but also, I mean, that Arizona Cardinals defense is fast. Like, they're meant to be lean. I mean, look at that.
That's a beaut.
Look at let me go back here just to. I mean, that's some Gabe Davis type, footwork right there. I mean, Gabe is usually a little bit closer, but I mean, that is some Gabe Davis type footwork. Extremely smart footwork from Crowder there.
What a pass from Zach, or no, who is that? Joe Flacco or like Matt White or whoever that boy name is.
I mean, this is
Woo-wee!
This is peak COVID because there's nobody in the stands.
Yeah, so it might have been
that was 14. That was Darnold right here.
I remember
throwing the ball to him.
That's the play Tremaine Edmonds got injured, and it really messed up our defense for like half the season.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Jake might be right. This production-wise, this might be the steal of the offseason. I mean, that's Taron Johnson chasing him. Taron Johnson, who ran fast enough and dodged enough people to do a pick 6 against the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs 2 years ago.
Oh, and he could throw. Woo-wee! Look at that pass!
Yeah. Wow. Let me go back here to that one.
Okay. Look, we was talking about Isaiah McKenzie. This is what you expect to see from Isaiah McKenzie. So the fact that he can also do it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. That's what I like to see. Outrun Joe Hayden now. Yeah. Boom.
I mean that's on Cleveland's defense right there. They left him wide open. Wow. That's awesome. No, I mean, I'm definitely happy. Like I said, though, I think it's just having the thought process of it feels like he's been in the league forever. Obviously, NFL GMs are going to actually look at how long a player's been in the league and their production-wise, but for fans, it's like, hey, this has just been an absolute, a guy's been in the league forever, blah, 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 and he actually just hasn't been. So, moving on from that, though, speaking to a guy who has been in the league, or speaking about a guy who has been in the league forever, we're going to switch it up here a little bit. We're going to talk about Jordan Poyer and his quest for an extension. Now, he did end up getting a new agent. Why is the agent's name escaping me right now? Because it's the guy everybody has.
Drew Barrymore. I mean,
not Drew Barrymore. Yes, Drew Rosenhaus. Thank you. I was like, Drew Rosen. I couldn't remember the rest of it. But Drew Rosenhaus, which a lot of people thought was like a really big move that he was just out of Buffalo. I don't know what it is, and this is not a knock on all Bills fans, but it's like if one little thing happens, a lot of people just like jump to this absolute idea on the other end of the spectrum. They're like, oh, he got Drew Rosenhaus, he's out. It's like, no, Drew Rosenhaus is one of the most respected, but also one of the toughest negotiators in professional sports. And Jordan Poyer is a big name, especially now with his success with the Bills over the last couple of years. So he's going to go get a big-time agent. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's gone from Buffalo. So I just wanted to put that out there. But so Jordan Poyer wants an extension. First and foremost, Justus, do you think Jordan Poyer deserves an extension?
Does Jordan Poyer deserve an extension? Absolutely, positively. He should be a top 5 paid safety in the NFL, right? But that's not what we could do right now, Right. So, it's kind of like You know, I think Jordan Poyer deserves the money 1,000,000%. Mm-hmm. But we just had to pay Stephon Diggs. Are you going to argue that you're more important to the team than Stephon Diggs? No, that's not even an argument, right? Are you going to argue that you're more important to the team than Josh Allen? Come on now, right? So you just watched us pay all these people. You know, we still have to fill out the rest of the roster. We still have to pay people coming up who are also probably of higher value to the team than you are specifically at this point in your life. Mm-hmm. At the age of 31, chances are your play is probably going to start declining in these next couple of years. To pay you an obscene amount of money that can be allocated elsewhere kind of doesn't make sense just for the future of the team. Jordan Poyer should absolutely do what's in his best interest, right?
Agreed.
Do I love having Jordan Poyer on the team? Absolutely. Do I want to see Jordan Poyer in Buffalo for years to come? Absolutely. But if he's looking for like this huge payday, which he has every right to do, go get your money. He has to do what's best for him and his family. Now, Brandon Beane has to do what's best for him and the Buffalo Bills, right? So, these guys, Ed Oliver's coming up, Tremaine Edmonds is coming up, Dawson Knox is, all these guys are coming up, and they're going to have to get paid too. And these guys are younger and entering their primes. And Jordan Poyer is probably in the prime and maybe possibly moving past it a little bit. So I don't think paying him, top 5 safety money would be smart. So I love Jordan Poyer. I just don't think that if he's looking for a huge payday, that this is the place to do it. Same with Tremaine Edmonds. But that's the thing. We don't know if Tremaine Edmonds is going to ask for Darius Leonard money, right? What if he asks for Tremaine Edmonds money and we're like, oh, okay, cool. Right. I give him $17 million a year. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the I've talked about this a couple of times. The one really big thing that I guess isn't necessarily wrong with the NFL, but it is wrong with the NFL is players get paid off of what the average is or what was last paid for the position group, which is why it was really important that which I didn't call it a mistake, but I said it was kind of a slip up on the Bills' part to not get an extension done for Stefon Diggs prior to Christian Kirk and Jacksonville absolutely obliterating the wide receiver market. Because the what you're seeing now with Terry McLaurin in Washington, what you're seeing now with Deebo Samuel in San Francisco, what you're seeing now with there was one other wide receiver that just A.J. Brown in Tennessee. What you're seeing now with these wide receivers is they saw that these other guys got paid and they're about to have a big payday, and they're like, give it to me now.
Yes.
And it's not like these are bad wide receivers. These are the best number one wide receivers on literally each of these like 3 teams, or if not the number one wide receiver, arguably the most important. Deebo Samuel, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, is arguably the most important member of that offense in San Francisco. Terry McLaurin is, just because of the fact that he's in Washington, is a probably underrated name at wide receiver. And A.J. Brown, we know, is a bona fide product in Tennessee. So these guys just want to get paid because they saw what happened. And so I would say it was a miscalculation on the Bills' part to not get something done for Diggs earlier. Yeah. But I would agree with you. I get it from Jordan's point of view of, well, all these other guys are getting paid on the team. I want my money. And I get it. I agree with you. He absolutely deserves it 100%. I'm not, and you're certainly not going to sit here and go, Jordan Poyer does not deserve this money. Anybody that does that is crazy. All right. This is a guy who was just snubbed over for, a Pro Bowl season. All right. One of the most underrated talents with one of the highest productions, part of the best safety tandem in the NFL. Nobody sane is going to argue against that. But to your point, there are financial constraints that are a reality. The salary cap does exist, regardless of what most or some people will say. It does exist, and you can only mess with it so much. You can only convert other players' contracts and money in their contracts so much and so often to certain degrees. You can only find money by cutting other players in other areas so much and so often. Eventually, it comes to a point, and I'm afraid that this might be where we're at with Jordan Poyer, where in order to make this happen, you'd have to let somebody go or trade them, and the other team has to take a number or a percentage of their contract or whatever, or mess with somebody else's money that's going to screw the team over down the line, or is going to hurt the team now because you have to lose X amount of guys in order to make this work now. And with Jordan's age and with the team's financial constraints, I'm worried that we're just leaning an inch or two over into the Brandon Beane has to do what's best for the team. And unfortunately, that's Jordan Poyer not being here. Now, that's not going to happen now because he has another year left on this contract. He's going to play out this year. It's just you might end up losing him to free agency and not getting anything for him unless you feel confident enough at the trade deadline for somebody like Damar Hamlin to step in. So, exactly. And it's not a knock against, Jordan, and Damar Hamlin, I believe, can almost certainly play a starting safety position in the NFL on this Buffalo Bills team. You got to think he's been here for a couple of years now. He's been behind these safeties in Hyde and Poyer learning. He can play both strong or free safety. So like he's a dual threat guy. There's cheaper contingencies that are on the team. And that's not to say that there's not options that are out there as well. If for some reason, again, we're in voluntary workouts right now, Poyer is not there. What happens if we get to involuntary? What happens when we get to OTA and we get to camp and Poyer doesn't show up? That's when I'm going to start to worry. Right now, I'm not worried. I'm going to start to worry then. But it's an unfortunate reality and fact of life in the National Football League that we might just not be able to pay him because where he is now in his career, while he had probably one of the best years of his career, where he is age-wise and health-wise as he gets older, it's not going to be worth it to the team to sacrifice the long-term outlook for success now. I'd rather win 4 or 5 Super Bowls. I'd rather win one, but I'd rather win all of them, as many as you can. And if it means sacrificing this one guy who's beloved by the fan base, is beloved in the community, if it means making this one unpopular decision, then that's what that's going to mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Jordan, and I definitely want to see him succeed. I want to see him succeed with the Buffalo Bills. I want to see him go out there and help us win the Super Bowl this year. I kind of feel like if he were to not be at involuntary workouts and OTAs and whatnot, I would kind of get a bad taste in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to start to worry then.
Yeah. I don't know if I would necessarily worry because I kind of feel like Leslie Frazier, and I really don't want to take anything away from Jordan Poyer or Mike Hyde or Jade or any of those guys, right? But if we look at Nick Frazier's defense, it's really put every player in the best position to succeed. All you have to do is have the talent to go out there and make it happen, right? They're going to show you where you need to be, what you need to do, and you're going to have those responsibilities. Now, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde do that at the highest level, right? So that's not to take anything away from them. But I think you could bring in a guy and, maybe, not have the best safety tandem in the league, but maybe a top 10 safety tandem and still kind of get, good results. We still have the best quarterback in the league. We still have one of the best offenses in the league, and we still have one of the best overall defenses in the league. Now you stout up your defensive line, and you're probably the best defense in the league overall, really. We'll see what those guys in the AFC West do because they stacked up too. But, I think the potential is there. So I think a guy like you take a look at what happened with Tre'Davious White, right? And everybody was like, oh, damn, we're not going to the Super Bowl now. All that other stuff, right? And they were like, we won't have the number one defense. We won't have the number one secondary. We still have number one defense. We still have number one secondary, and we still should have probably went to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, even without Tre'Davious White, who is our best defensive player. I mean, you got to think about it. Yeah, he's our best defensive player. So do I think we'll be fine without Jordan Poyer? Yes, we will be fine. would be good. Like I instead of being the number 1 defense, maybe we're like the number 3 defense. But I would still like to see Jordan Poyer back. So I hope that they can handle this amicably, and come away where both sides are happy. And Brandon Beane can continue to put this roster together in a way that it'll be competitive in 2-3 years down the line versus just being competitive today, which it has been his motto since he's got here. And because he didn't go all in, in 2020, with that team, or last year with that team, now we have an opportunity this year to be Super Bowl favorites and to go ahead and compete for a championship. And because he didn't go all in this year, we'll have an opportunity next year, and so on and so forth. So
right,
I think he'll do what's best for the Buffalo Bills. But you talked about Christian Kirk blowing up the wide receiver market, bro. That was crazy. Like Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, all immediately was like, I want my bread. Like they all immediately came out and was like, nah, I need my money now. Like, like it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So that's a perfect segue into talking about what a Deebo Samuel trade package will look like. Now, I'm not saying that the Bills need to go out and make this move. I'm assuming that Brandon Beane has kicked the tires on it. I'm assuming just because we know that he would, because he told us so in so many words in a recent interview with Pat McAfee after NFL free agency, saying that he I don't know if you saw it or if we've talked about it before, but basically for anybody that doesn't know is how he operates in this type of environment is he assigns the scouts like a division or like a grouping of teams, and their job is to basically every day come in and basically almost GM that team or those teams. And they like comb through social media. They talk to people that they know, and they find out everything that they possibly can with like what's going on with the players. How are they feeling? How are personnel feeling? Like they're ready, which is, and this is, he goes, this is exactly how we got Stefon Diggs, because the guy that they had covering Minnesota was like, listen, Diggs isn't happy. This is what he's tweeting. And that's how the Stefon Diggs trade happened. So it works. That's how we got wide receiver 1. Assumably, whoever is covering San Francisco went to Beane and was like, hey, this is what's happening. He wants out. Now, it also helps when Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport are covering it live and tweeting about it, I'm sure. But I wanted to kind of, talk here for a minute about what a Deebo Samuel's trade package could look like, kind of across the board, whether it's from Buffalo, whether it's from the Jets. The Jets seem to be the number 1 kind of consensus suitor for him, because we know that they were attempting to be in on Tyreek Hill. Deebo obviously would know Robert Saleh kind of cordially from Saleh's time as the defensive guy in San Francisco as recently as just 2 years ago, or just over a year ago. So there's already some connections there. We know that the Jets are looking for a fast wide receiver who can do a lot of stuff for them. What would and again, this is not Buffalo specific, because, literally the first comment that we got in here, and Joey, if you're in here, I was waiting for it, is no, we don't need Deebo. I agree with you. I don't think he wants out for playing time. This is definitely a he's not getting his money type thing. This is not a playing time type thing. But he wants that money that we've talked about here. But so not Buffalo specific, kind of across the board for the NFL. What do we think Deebo Samuel is worth? You are not coming through.
My bad. There was background noise. I wanted to mute myself. But yeah, I was going to say probably way too much, especially for the Buffalo Bills specifically. But if I'm thinking about it, I'd say Diggs got, what was it, a first and a second or something like that. I think Hopkins was like a first and something else, or I think it was actually less. It might have been like second and third or something stupid. But do we look at the haul Tyreek Hill got, or I guess the Chiefs got for Tyreek Hill? So probably at least the first and something more than a 2, or something more than a 3 rather. I would say maybe 2 firsts. I could see it, but also the thing about his timing with requesting the trade is a little off because the draft is coming up. So, teams probably are already invested in the players they scouted, and maybe they don't want to use all of that draft capital to go get this guy. And not only that, but it's so deep at wide receiver in a draft this year that, if you really like a guy, you it's very, possible to get him in this draft because there's a lot of great talent. We've seen a ton of 4.4 sub 4.4 speeds at the combine. We've seen a ton of sub 4.3 speeds at the combine. There's a couple, there's a couple 4.28s and things like that. So, maybe his timing was a little inopportune. Or actually, I guess technically for him, it would be opportune because now whatever team gets you, you don't want them to give up too much capital because you still want that team to get better if you're going to be on their roster for years to come. You know what I mean? And you want to go ahead and get paid. And obviously, if they're trading for you, that means they most likely have intentions to pay you, right? So maybe this was actually the most opportune time for him to request a trade from the perspective of Deebo Samuel. But if I'm looking at it from the perspective of the 49ers, bro, you got Jimmy Garoppolo on your roster commanding 23, 24 plus $1 million. You need to figure out something with that. Get him out of there. You trade him for a turkey sandwich and get that contract off of your ledger and give that money to Deebo Samuel. I don't know what they did to piss him off specifically, but he seems more upset with like how they're treating him versus just like the money, because he sounds offended. When I look at the way he requested a trade a week ago, and then he went to, I think it was Jeff Darlington, and was like, yo, I want out of here. He's like, I'm not going to go into detail on what happened, but I want to go, so I'm looking at that and I say, yeah, it must be a thing with, the 49ers maybe offended him in some way. Maybe they want to pay him like a running back. I don't know what the case may be, but yeah, if I'm San Francisco, I'm not letting him go. You just pay Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle. Like, they're great players, but come on, bro. Like, come on, son. Like, let's go. Let's get your best player on your entire team, the entire team, some money. Like, bro, come on now. So Deebo, I'm sorry, I went way off topic, but his trade package probably looks like, a first and at least higher than a 3, at least 2 picks. And they're both, top 100 picks. So that's what I think.
So Jake said exactly what I was going to say. I think, like I said, the number one suitor is presumably the Jets. They make the most sense. I was watching, me. Well, I don't really watch that much like mainstream type stuff. I'm watching like our shows. By our shows, I absolutely do not go back and watch my own shows. I hate doing that. But going back and like watching your shows or watching like Mafia Sports Report or like other people on FAMbase, Jay Spence and Joe Miller over at Rumblings, watching them. But I do watch Pat McAfee and Rich Eisen, and Rich is a Jets fan. And he talked about what the Jets draft could look like if they were to successfully execute this trade for Deebo. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be a first. I think it's the Jets. You got to remember, the Jets have 2 top 10 picks. They have 4 and they have 10. Assumably, they're going to want to trade away 10 because you're not trading away 4. Presumably, they trade away 10, so San Francisco then has the 10th overall. I don't know where their first is as of right now, but they then also have the 10th overall. I would assume that either it's another first or like a second, maybe like 2 firsts and a third. So the Jets might give up another first next year and then a third either this year or a year or 2 out, and potentially a player if they have somebody that San Francisco really wants. But then you look at the Jets draft just for Thursday night, and you're potentially walking out with like Sauce Gardner at 4 and Deebo Samuel in exchange for the 10th round pick. You want to talk about setting up cornerstones for both your offense and your defense. That is a perfect getaway for the Jets if they give up the right amount. And I don't trust that they will. I think they'll overpay because they're the Jets, and the GM that they have in there is not fantastic, is not, great. But it's also the Jets, so it might just be something in the drinking water. I'm going to say it's the 10th overall pick from the Jets for this upcoming Thursday, and at least a third and another first probably next year or the year after. And possibly some players that they're trying to trade away, open up some more cap space in exchange for drafting Sauce Gardner at 4 and trading your 10th overall and essentially drafting Deebo Samuel at 10. And then you're off to the races, bringing this to Buffalo. You're off to the races in the AFC East, because that's exactly where you don't want Deebo Samuel or Sauce Gardner to land. And you're off to the races out west because San Francisco, who is in the playoffs and was in the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago,
but Jimmy G
is probably keeping Jimmy G this offseason. I think they keep him. I don't think that they trade him at the draft or before the season starts. So you have Jimmy G. You probably draft one of these awesome wide receivers that you mentioned before, and San Francisco is still off to the races. This is the wildest, and I would say this is the wildest NFL offseason in a long time. And I don't think it's over yet.
It's not even close, bro. Yeah. Like, this is the wildest. First of all, to have a single division absolutely go bonkers and just like sign every single good free agent that's on the market, and then obviously have a situation where multiple big names, as we spoke of, Tyreek Hill and Davante Adams are both gone out of their original teams, which I don't think any of us expect this to happen. Deebo Samuel probably at this rate looks like he's probably going to be gone. And 2 months ago, I wouldn't have said that. I'd have been like, oh, they'll figure out a way to keep him. But I just watched Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill both get traded from Super Bowl contenders. Deebo Samuels might be gone. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually leaning toward that happening just because of the way the season is gone in off season. Exactly. Like the absolute just wildness that has happened kind of tells me that if something crazy might happen, it probably will. So I agree.
I'm looking up one thing here. We do have a comment from Sean. No, he wants a new deal. He started acting like this after Hill and then Diggs got paid. Yeah, this is exactly what we said at the beginning. If you didn't get a chance to catch that, after watching Christian Kirk in Jacksonville specifically first, just absolutely obliterate the wide receiver market. Then you saw Davante Adams get traded from Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers' knowledge. I don't know why Aaron Rodgers would go back and sign there, but that's a conversation for a different day. With Aaron Rodgers' knowledge, Davante Adams getting traded from Green Bay to almost said Oakland, to Vegas, and getting that next big contract. Then you saw A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Deebo Samuel go ahead and get their worlds turned upside down, and now they all want big money as well. I was trying to find the exact dates, and I might be able to do that here in a second. But moving into the next piece of what we're going to talk about, this one's going to be really quick. Some news came out earlier this week that Buffalo's very own Josh Allen is going to be playing in a golf match with Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. He's going to be playing, I believe, with Patrick Mahomes. And so what we have up on the screen here right now is Josh Allen just shooting some golf there at Pebble Beach, I think a year ago. I don't think this was from this offseason, but Josh there is a known avid golfer in the offseason, And so Josh is going to be actually playing in a televised match that I want to say is May 10th. But somebody can either correct me in the comments, or if we look it up, then we'll know. But I want to say it's May 10th. No, it's not. It's June 1st. I think it's in June. It's a little bit of a ways out, but Josh is going to be on TV, not throwing the football. He's going to be doing golf. So, I'm excited because I'm at the age now where I like watching golf. So for some reason, and I do play a little bit, but yeah, I'm gonna be excited to see Josh out there and see what he can bring.
Yeah, man. So obviously we all saw the Tom Brady tweet, right? You know, he's like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, and Jake is hilarious. Sorry. You know, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Josh Allen, of course. And you know, I didn't know what was coming. Obviously, I didn't think it was anything malicious or anything. But it was kind of exciting, you know, like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, you know, the two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, probably two top 5 guys, maybe 2 top 3 guys, if we're being completely honest in terms of, you know, talent at the position. And then obviously Patrick Mahomes, his reputation and his legend was solidified after his second season in the NFL. So people were like, "Oh, he's the greatest quarterback ever," whatever, all that crap. But anyway, we still know how great he is. You know, can't hate too much. He's obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, just from a talent perspective. And then, you know, for them to officially like welcome Josh into that tier of quarterbacking and, you know, of notoriety, you know, of superstardom, you know, was pretty cool, you know, especially from as a guy who, you know, was a fan of Josh Allen from the beginning. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see that, you know. And I mean, I don't watch golf too much. I used to watch Tiger back when he was good, but I might watch this one. I
mean, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I know that I'll probably be watching that for sure. I keep trying to find the date. I want to say it's June 1st. Somebody can check me on that. But moving on from that, somebody else who has been kind of well acquainted with the golf course in the offseason because he hasn't been making the playoffs that much. Stephon Gilmore, former Buffalo Bill, just signed, I want to say, a 2-year multi-million-dollar deal with the Indianapolis Colts.
Good save.
Buffalo is 100 or was reportedly interested in Stephon Gilmore. Now, I've never been a big Gilmore fan, and I think it's funny that, again, this is not, you know, to all Bills fans, but watching a lot of Bills fans have a complete meltdown over Gilmore for years as being like a bad corner, and then the second he becomes available and the potential for a reunion is there, salivating over a backfield that would feature Trey White and Stephon Gilmore. Obviously, Trey White, once he's healthy, which we're going to talk about here in a second, was pretty funny to me. But I wanted to get your take on Buffalo having interest in Stephon Gilmore and what your thoughts would have been on a potential reunion here in the 716.
So it was 2 million, 23 million. I just looked it up. 2 years, 23 million. I don't know. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, if he comes, awesome, cool. We got another talented cornerback, you know, who can hold down the CB1 fort until Trey White gets back, and then can be a reliable CB2. You know, so it's like, all right, cool. You know, obviously, Stephon Gilmore didn't have the nicest words, you know, for Buffalo on his way out. But, you know, I look at it and I say Buffalo wasn't the nicest place on his way out. Not the Bills, at least, you know. He got to see Buffalo as it was in the Doug Whaley era. Not Doug Whaley. What's the guy's name? No, it was Doug Whaley, right?
Yeah, Doug Whaley, Russ Brandon.
Yeah, he got to see that era of the Buffalo Bills, right? So he you know, yeah, of course it offends us, but let's be honest, that wasn't a good football team. And though we loved our team, it probably wasn't great to be a player. You're a millionaire, you're a 20-year-old millionaire in this city where you really can't do very much if you don't know anybody, and you're here on this terrible team. Terrible culture, terrible locker room. You feel like you're a superstar, and I think there's a little bit to the whole, my family gets to see me on TV thing. It sounded horrible in the moment, but hey, I mean, even what was it last year? We only had like the year before that, I think we had like 3 primetime games or something. And we were all just felt disrespected and whatnot, but we had to earn that. We had to, hell no, not at 23 million. No. But I'm saying that if we had him, obviously it would be a lot cheaper deal because you have a premium here. You're actually a Super Bowl contender versus the Colts. I think they're a sleeper Super Bowl contender, but I don't think they're like up there with us, but I wouldn't have been like upset if he came back. I'm not upset that he didn't come back. It's kind of just one of those things where if he did, it's kind of like Brandon Beane's just trying to make the team better. He'll probably come in and they'll do some type of promotion where he's like eating wings with, blue cheese or something, and then be like, "Oh, I love Buffalo," all of it. I think the same thing would have happened with Gronk. People were mad over the Tre'Davious White thing, rightfully so, because that was bullshit. But he probably was just did some super wild Gronkowski brother thing, and he probably would be welcome with open arms, especially if you're out there helping us win games. I don't think people would care too much after a while, but I'm not upset that he didn't come back. I really don't care that much. I don't think our secondary is in as dire need for a cornerback as a lot of people say. So yeah, I just go get a second, third round cornerback, and we'll be completely fine, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree with you. I wasn't a big fan of him while he was here. So I was certainly not, going to welcome him back here with open arms. Jake saying that Gilmore Lakes Anchor Bar not welcome anymore. I agree. I think Duff's and Anchor Bar are tourist traps. They're not good. I don't even have them in my top 5, let alone probably my top 10. What are your like top 2 wing spots? Do you have them?
Yeah, Avenues, really, really good, really, really good. And then, wow, of course I'm blanking on the name right now. My uncle owns a wing spot, and his wings are really, really good. Can't think of the name, but I'll tell you guys later on like social media or something. But
okay.
Those are my top 2 wings. Yeah, but I'm from the east side, I'm from the the rougher, you know what I mean? I don't go to the what is it? Bar Bill or something.
Bill.
Yeah, people love that stuff, and I've never been. So
it's we'll have to go because we're in the same city, so we'll have to go. We'll hang out, especially this summer because I'm gonna get out this summer. But I didn't I won't say where, but I did like an internship at a pretty well-known big Western New York company, and we used to go out every Friday. All the interns would go out to Bar Bill, to the original one. Now there's one Bar Bill North in like in Clarence, and they're good. They're a lot better than a lot of other places. Maybe I just haven't had it in a bit, but I'm like, I don't know where I'd place it. What I would say is my number one place to get wings is 9/11 Tavern in South Buffalo. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, if you want to talk about perfect wing, that's it. Second is Elmo's, which people have heard a lot of. Oh, and look at that, the Sabres scored. Is Elmo's. And my third, just because I'll throw it in there because I grew up with it, is Johnny's Pizzeria on Union in Cheektowaga by the airport. So I grew up with that. Amazing pizza and amazing wings, but I have had 9/11 Tavern and I have had Elmo's, and they both absolutely held up. And Jake chiming in here, having lived there, living in Florida, his number 1 is Papa B's, and number 2 is Wingstop. So, Jake, next time you're up here, bud, or if you ever come back up here again, we'll all have to go out and we'll just do like a wing. We'll do like a wing trail, like a wing. We'll do like a wing trail for it. But no, so like I said, Stephon Gilmore, I wasn't excited about bringing him back. I wasn't even thinking about bringing him back. And the second that they started talking about it, I was like, I'm out. Like, I'm good. Deal or no deal? The answer is no deal 100% of the time. You don't have to finish the sentence.
I completely understand anybody that feels that way, right? I completely understand.
And it's not even like a how he left. Like, I want to see, like, have my family see me play on TV. It's 100% of like, I just don't think he's that good. And the Sabres are now up 2-0. So we're going to try and wrap this up here really quick. This one is meant to be a quick one. It's just kind of like an update on Trey White. Obviously, suffered, it was an ACL injury against the Saints on Thanksgiving this past year. Unfortunately, he is out, continues to be out. He's not, I think he's been in Buffalo at the facilities working. I think Bean said that. Maybe Bean or McDermott said that. But he has been in Buffalo. He's been in the facilities working. He has the opportunity to play this season, but I think the likelihood of him being back for like opening kickoff is for the season is slim to none. I think we're looking at probably 2 to 2.5 months before they're even looking to clear him to come back. And again, with an injury like this, you're looking at the mental aspect of it too, the human aspect of it, him coming back. I mean, he's not adverse to injuries, but this is a significantly big one. Buffalo looking to also, again, be in the playoffs. We don't know how that's going to affect them. So, hopefully, we all wish that hopefully Trey is better and feeling better soon. But so far, all reports have been indicative that he's going to be better, or that he is getting better. There haven't really been that many setbacks. Do you have anything that you wanted to talk about with Trey?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I said, I kind of feel like our secondary is going to be okay, at least, be able to hold down the fort until he comes back. So I'm cool with him being out as long as he needs to be. I was talking to Donald Jones the other day, and as a football player, I'm sure he knows, but he says, it takes like 2 years recovery to get really back to your, full strength, after an ACL. So, I'd like him to rest as much as possible, and help us, win a Super Bowl when he feels like at least, 90% or, as best as he can, without immediately getting back on the field and running on that knee,
Yeah. I just wrote this comment from Jake. Ryan, what do I think is the move at CB2? I think Dane Jackson can fill in really well at CB2. We saw it this season. We obviously know that he is a lot better than Trey in the run game and being way more physical of a player. We know that Trey is not that player. And it's not a knock against him, but it is kind of a knock because excuse me, Dane is also, there was really no drop off in the pass protection game or defending against the pass from Dane. He didn't really require that much help from other guys stepping in and providing more coverage. The plays didn't change, the defensive scheme didn't change. And he's way better, way more effective in the run game and being physical. Absolutely Dane Jackson for CB2.
He's asking who'll be the CB2 while Trey is out. So like, I think he means like who's going to be the CB1, CB2 combination. So Dane Jackson and who week 1?
Well, I think Dane Jackson is the move at CB2. He brings up Cam Lewis is going to be the guy week 1.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think he's saying. Dane Jackson is probably going to be your CB1 if we don't get a guy who's better than him. Who's going to be that CB2 there if Dane Jackson is CB1?
Cam Lewis, probably. mean, they brought him back specifically for, I would say, for that reason. I think they just sign Cam Lewis to like a 1-year extension too.
Did they?
Maybe it was somebody else, but
I know they re-signed Saran Neal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, they definitely need again. The conversation comes up again. They definitely need more depth at corner, guys that we want to rely on, instead of having this conversation year in and year out of, well, corner, CB2, depth, what happens if Trey's out, which we got the answer to that, unfortunately, this past season. But it's like, I'm sick and tired of having this conversation. It's getting to be the QB conversation of who's going to be the depth, who's going to be there, what's the consistency going to be. So I'll be excited for when we can stop having that conversation and the conversation shifts to who's going to be, the depth fullback guy. That's the day that we know that we've made it. Hopefully by then we'll have a couple Super Bowls at that point. But I just want to wrap it up here really quick by talking about the NFL draft. And I said we can go a couple different ways with this in terms of what we're looking for Bills-wise, or what we think they're going to do in round 1. But if you guys don't already know, we are going to have live coverage of day 1 and day 2 of the NFL draft. So the first 3 rounds of the draft. And Justus and I have been working on this idea. He's been the one that's been executing it because I've been out with COVID and I've been, snuggled up in bed watching movies and TV shows and doing whatever. So I appreciate you executing on this idea. Hopefully, if we do it really well this year, we're going to do a phenomenal job next year because I already got some ideas kicking around. So, but yeah, man, since you've been executing the idea, do you want to talk about it a little bit? You want to talk about some of the people that are going to be on and what people can expect as we do the live coverage for rounds 1, 2, and 3 for the NFL draft?
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Ryan for this amazing idea. We was just in the group chat and he's just like, yo, I got a great idea. And I was like, what's up? And he told me, and I was like, no, that's a great fucking idea, So shout out to Ryan for, his what is it called? Like a brain baby? Idea baby? Can't think of the name right now.
A brainstorm?
No, but it's like your brainchild. Is that what it's called?
I guess.
Yeah. So, shout out to Ryan for the idea. But I mean, he pretty much came up with the entire structure for the thing. So I don't know why he's saying I did all the work, but we got a kind of a lot of cool people coming on. We have some. Hold on. Let me get the paper. Okay, let me get the notebook. I got you. Give me 2 seconds.
All right. So while Justus is doing that, then we can talk about it a little bit. What basically we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of people on from the Bills Mafia content creator community. Justus is going to talk about that here in a second. But, I mean, we are going to do some in-depth, pretty much what I talked about before with Brandon Bean and talking to or having the scouts kind of GM the other teams. We're going to become experts. We're going to assign teams. People are going to become experts and be the go-to analysts when that team is drafted and talk about, hey, before the pick, this is what I think they're going to do. They're probably going to do the complete other 100% opposite thing because it's a week before the draft, and these people have been looking at this like 2 years out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that, and it's going to be rounds 1, 2, and 3. The original idea was to do all 7 rounds, but pretty much by day 3, most fans are completely checked out. So Justus, go ahead.
Jake, leave me alone, man.
What are you talking about?
Brain baby, you're making fun of me. Oh dang! My man Alex told me I was supposed to have it on the heart, and I had it on the circle. So anyway, all right. So for for the first round, we got my man, the draft expert himself, my man Dean Kindig from Buffalo FAMbase. This guy is like crazy with draft. Like he has a complete big board. He watches every single college prospect, their interviews, and he grades them. He puts their 40 times in, their schools, the system they played in, data. Like he writes notes about every single prospect from quarterback to punter. Like Dean is the guy. So I'm super excited to have him. He'll be on for the first round. Of course, the boss himself, Mookie Hawkins. We're going to have me and Ryan are going to be hosting it together. Rust Belt draft type of, a special.
Well, All right, so hold on. Buffalo just scored. We're up 3-0 now. But
Damn, I'm definitely turning this game on.
Yes, because April 28th, as it's going down across the bottom, is Thursday. So there won't be an episode of the Rust Belt Report because as we're starting the draft, or probably draft coverage an hour before, I would imagine, at like 7:30ish. The draft starts at like 8. So we're going to be talking about the draft. We're not going to be able to do an episode of the Rust Belt Report because it's going to be replaced by the draft.
So. It'll be a Rust Belt Report draft special. Right?
Yes.
So we'll do that, right? Of course, we got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Jake Jordan. My man Joe Miller might be coming through. We'll see. Nice. You know what I'm saying? He might make a special guest appearance. We got my man Mikey and Tommy from the Mafia Sports Report will be with us in first round. Justin Goddard from the Wandering Buffalo. Yep. We also got Brian Alvarez, and for those of you who don't know his real name is Reddit Bills. I'm super excited.
Nice.
Like as one of my favorite follows. This is my man Zach Vaughn, another one of my favorite follows from Buffalo Fanatics, will be on. Adam Zientek from Building Buffalo. My guy Adam will be joining us. And then for round 2, we got T. Estelle from Not Your Average Podcast and 716. We got Ryan's guy, Akilo Roberts. Akilo killed it, man. When I saw you know, he did his show with Jason Malloy, Beckett with the back door. He killed it, man. I was like, yo, Akilo,
dude, Akilo is I'm telling you, I look at Akilo and I see the next Joe Miller. Like the way that he talks and the tone of his voice is just it's so good, and he's up and coming, and
he knows his shit.
And he knows exactly what he's talking about. And he did, which if you guys are interested, and if you're interested, I don't know if you know this, the first 4 episodes that he did for LDG Sports and Entertainment, which is my brand, which hasn't really been doing much because these guys are up here now or are in the process of being incorporated to FAMbase. The first 4 episodes are a series of episodes. They all go together. It's a 4-part episode where he interviews his own brother, who is not only an actor, but is a former college football player who played with a lot of guys who are in the NFL now. So you got to get like a lot of this cool information. And plus, when you're like friends with someone or like you know someone and you do a show with them, it's just a completely different vibe because it's not like if I just did a show with somebody I've never done before. Like that's a completely different like way that you interact and stuff like that. So it was absolutely well done. I highly suggest going and finding it. LDG Sports and Entertainment on Spotify. The first 4 episodes are up there. You're gonna have to search because there's a bunch of other shows that are on there, but it's supremely well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Akilo's my guy. Super glad that I actually talked to him and got to see what he can do. So round 2 will also have, of course, Jake Jordan. Maybe I don't want to say definitively, but maybe we might have my girl, Kristen Kimmick from Buffalo Bills Babes. Okay, or I'm sorry, Bills Mafia Babes, not Buffalo Bills Babes. I was total brain fart, but maybe. And we also might have some of her sisters and, some of the amazing women that are a part of that group and community. Probably my favorite group, honestly. Like I love Bills Mafia.
Yeah.
Like they're amazing. I got a shirt over there. I'm probably going to wear that soon.
Nice.
My man, the caveman, Michael Lisman will be doing the second round. Nice. Philip Gong, from Ringing the Gong podcast, will be joining us as well. Adam Zientek, has agreed to do both nights, so that's dope.
Nice.
Michelle Girardi said that she's going to be in the war room with the Bills, and she said that if she has an opportunity, she will stop by and talk to us for a bit. So that is something that we maybe be able to look forward to. And boss man himself, Mr. Dale Reid, says he may be able to make a stop by in the second round. That'll be Friday night. So that'll be like the first round bye, draft special.
I'm gonna try and stop in Friday night. The reason that I can't do it is because that happens to be the 29th. And the 29th also happens to be Rick Jenneret's last ever NHL game that he's calling for the Sabres. He's retiring after that.
That just happened.
No, that was a different guy. That was just a night. That was the night that they did the banner for him. I was there at that game.
Okay.
That was they did that, but that's the last game that he's calling play-by-play for, and there's nothing in the world that I was gonna miss that for. So I might call in during like an intermission or something like that because they'll be on at the same time. So I might stop in.
Okay. All right.
I might stop in just to talk or maybe hang out a little bit. But no, man, that's an insane roster.
And there may be more.
And there might even be more. I know a couple people that have reached out to me, and I know a couple people that have mentioned it, and they're like, I'm talking to Justus or whatever. So, and then obviously we're not doing day 3 coverage. For anybody that's interested, I'll be doing day 3 coverage on Twitter for myself, as well as my TikTok, which I think is at FAMbase TRBR. If you're interested. So I'll be posting videos after they do. Thank you. So I'll be doing videos on TikTok, and I'll of course be tweeting along on Twitter for day 3 as much as I possibly can, because I actually might be traveling that day, so it depends. I might be traveling for work, so I might be on my way to the East Coast, or to the actual East Coast.
Jake, because bro, we're gonna be wearing our attire, like suit and tie type.
I'll
be wearing my Bills, polo. So I mean, I don't know if you want to be sitting for this, bro. But we'll see what happens. He might be like our like in-depth reporter, where it's like, let's go to Jake for the.
Yeah. I'm like at that point, I'm having like a standing desk. Like I'm gonna have to pace. Like maybe I'll get like the bar stool, but I mean suit and tie. I'm gonna be here. We're gonna have a fun time. So no, thank you for that, and thank you for putting it together. Now next year though, we're gonna have a whole year to put together for it.
And after this year we about to have, bro. Oh my.
After this year that we're about to have, it's gonna be absolutely insane. But no, so I want to thank you guys for showing up to this week's episode of the Rust Belt Report here on Buffalo FAMbase. I apologize for how I sound. I promise I will try and be over COVID by the time next week comes around. But that said, I got to go, and Justus has to go, because we're going to go watch the Buffalo Sabres third period, where they're up 3, and I think the 3-1. All right. My man Duck over there is giving me the one hand up. So it's 3-1 Buffalo against New Jersey right now. There's a chance Buffalo could slot into 24th place. Doesn't mean a lot, because we're definitely not making the playoffs. We're mathematically eliminated, but 24th place is a whole lot better than the basement, and that means that there would be 8 other teams below us, which is good. It's progress. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of the Rust Belt Report. I'm Ryan. This is Justus, and I'm going to see you next week at night 1 of the draft, live coverage. I'm pumped for this. I'm absolutely pumped for this, and I cannot wait. And I'm sure Justus and the 100 other people that he just rattled names off of cannot wait either. We will see you soon. Please interact with us on social media. And again, I do the stuff on TikTok, so definitely go interact there. And we'll see you guys next week for the NFL Draft. Live 2022 coverage, rounds 1 through 3, only here on Buffalo FAMbase.